Our main fort in Seoul was relatively nearby, so I walked there in the morning. It wasn't the best part of town. The homes of the people were crumbling, and the streets were lined with thousands of persons, bicycles, and carts, producing a sort of bedlam. The smell of waste was ever present, since the sewage runs through the gutters in some parts, where the little children, wearing hardly any clothes, often play or wander unattended. People traveled in all directions, loaded down with bales of hay, cases of beer, cabbage, or just about anything imaginable on the back of a bicycle. No one obeyed the traffic lights. I entered the fort and located the computer center and gave them the tapes, both the supply ones and the intelligence ones. They were Americans. They made a copy and gave me the originals back. Everything worked. They had an RCA computer. I have another delivery to make, way down south. I'll be back in a few days or more to see how things are going. Meanwhile, I'll call you. I skipped staying at a hotel, since it was still early, and soon found the train station and boarded an old train to Tageu, some 300 miles to the south, where there was a kind of a backup fort, I supposed, in case the North Koreans ever stormed into Seoul across the nearby dividing line of the DMZ. Which had been and still was a constant specter of tension over the many years since the Korean War. As I rode the train and looked out the window, the poorness of the country sunk deeper into me. The lady of old on my side sang lullabies in an ancient tongue as I waved to the peasants cooking in their little old pots. Such poor people with shutters on their dreams. I couldn't understand very much of what people said on the train, so I took out the computer programs again. Later, I walked up and down through the train, not seeing Vince. He was doing well in his tracking exercise if he was here. Perhaps I'd given him the slip in Seoul. At Tageu, a lot of people got off the train, from all the cars. I couldn't tell if any of them were Vince, far off in the distance. There were a few taxis, but they had taken off while I was busy dragging the tapes along. Beggars followed me. I took an ox cart for a very long way to the fort. There were some Americans in and around the fort, but none in the computer center. The center was predominantly ROK, Republic of Korea. I gave them the supply tapes only. They weren't supposed to get the intelligence tapes. I stood outside the gates of the fort, noting camouflaged planes and tanks nearby, just behind a fence right next to the road, easily spotted from the ground. Where was Vince? In the town, there were the usual assemblage of places that always sprung up near a military base. I was still rolling the tapes around in an ordinary-looking luggage bag, which also contained my clothes. It was a cool night and a bit foggy, but a full moon shone through. It looked scary, as it did on the Korean postcards I'd seen.